Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Basketball Bulletin. The NBA preseason is here, and we're going to break down the biggest moves of the summer. Get everybody caught up so you know which players have changed teams, which are the biggest moves that teams made all off season. We are pushing for 5,000 subscribers before the season starts, so do us a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. I'm Trevor Lane. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, how you doing?
Doing great. Hope you are as well.
I am indeed. I'm excited to break down these moves. Some of these moves are better than others. Some of these are head scratchers. Some of these you just go, man, what a steal for that team. But let's start things off. No particular order. We've got the 10 biggest moves of the NBA offseason. We're starting things off with the Bulls trading Alex Caruso to Oklahoma City for Josh Giddey. At the time when the move went down, a lot of people were not happy with Chicago, thinking they got fleeced in this trade. Josh Giddey had just showed some problems with OKC in the postseason, especially his shooting is in question. But very clearly, Chicago is embarking upon a rebuild. They're going to try to bring in even more young talent, and Josh Giddey fits that mold. Meanwhile, for OKC, our old friend Alex Caruso, back from his Lakers days, he is a phenomenal fit with the Thunder. This is not the last time the Thunder is going to appear on this episode, but Donnie, how much better does Caruso make OKC?
Exponentially. I think Caruso is the kind of guy
Yes.
that you could plug onto any team and he makes them exponentially better. And it's not because he's like some superstar player or anything like that. It's just he's the ultimate role player. And you plug him onto a team that already has a superstar, that's already deep, that's got a great roster, that's already one of the top teams in the entire league, and you're going to get exponentially better. And he's going to go out there and he's going to give you everything he's got, going to defend the opposing team's best perimeter player. He's going to hustle. He's going to give you heart. He is going to be an amazing fit on this team, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch because they also, the thing about that team is they already had a couple guys like Caruso, like Dort, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see them all out there together just getting after it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The Oklahoma City Thunder, I've got them as the top team in the Western Conference. Alex Caruso's addition in it, and plus another guy we're going to be talking about in just a bit. That is a big part of it. Meanwhile, the Bulls, they'll see what Josh Giddey can do. It'll be interesting to see. They've got so many point guards on that team now, so many guys that need the ball in their hands. But I believe they are embarking upon a rebuild. Zach LaVine will eventually be traded. Probably same with Nikola Vucevic at some point. We'll see ultimately where the Bulls go, but hopefully they finally picked a direction, and that's toward rebuilding. Let's jump to the next move. Big move actually just went down the other day. The Knicks make the trade. They get Karl Anthony Towns, sending Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo to the Wolves. Now, this is a much more complicated deal. I mean, the hoops that the Knicks had to jump through in order to make this happen. The salary cap gymnastics are crazy. Just did a video, by the way, that you guys should check out, breaking down everything the Knicks had to do and why the NBA isn't too happy with the Knicks for the way that they went about actually making this trade. But the bottom line, they got the guy they wanted. What do you think about Karl Anthony Towns in New York?
I think he's going to fit perfectly. He's another guy that I think you can plug into any team, and his skill set's just going to mesh there. He doesn't require the ball a ton to be successful. He's going to space the floor for them, and he's going to just, I think, be amazing for that team. Also, he's not going to have to be their first option, so you can maybe live with him every now and again having a bad night and survive that, especially with how deep that team is, at least, you know, with that starting lineup. They're a bit thin after that, but they've got a lot of talented names there. And as long as that team is healthy, they're going to be really, really, really good in contention for an NBA championship. And that's really exciting, seeing them push all their chips to the center of the table and go all in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And for the Wolves side, they are able to shed some salary for the future, and they pick up a guy in Julius Randle. I don't know how I am a longstanding resident of Randall Island. I'm a believer in his. I don't know that he's the best fit with Rudy Gobert. I don't know if Randall's three-point shooting is going to be good enough for that. I'm very skeptical of that. But Dante DiVincenzo, he's a fantastic fit just about anywhere. And so I get the appeal of landing him. He was apparently the piece that the Wolves had to get in this trade was Dante DiVincenzo. But Julius Randle can in some ways replicate what Cat gave you, maybe handle the ball a little bit more. The Wolves, I think, are just going to be hoping that they stayed about even. We'll see though if they did take a step back by making this move. I like Randall a lot. I like DiVincenzo. I just question the fit with Randall. But the Knicks, they get their guy, they get their center, Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe more moves to come for New York. Maybe Mitchell Robinson could end up on the way out, but at least they get their big in the middle. One of the other big moves of the offseason, the 76ers landing Paul George. Now, for a while now, the Sixers have been hoarding cap space for this past summer, hoping that they would land a big star on the market. And even in an age where the salary cap system has made it so that there's not a lot of big name players signing via free agency. Instead, it's much more trade based. They got it done. Paul George leaves the Clippers, wasn't able to come to terms on a new deal with them. The Clippers didn't want to give Paul George what he wanted. The 76ers said, come on over to the city of brotherly love. We will give you the contract that you want. What do you think? How much better are the Sixers now? Are they a true contender in the Eastern Conference?
Absolutely. I think they were already a true contender, to be honest, with a healthy Embiid. So I think this is just going to elevate them much more. And Embiid said it the other day that there's no agendas, there's no all NBA, any of that. All he cares about is making it to the postseason and through the postseason healthy. And that's refreshing to hear. I mean, I don't say this to disparage him, but I feel like a couple of times he's maybe played for accolades and things like that and focused on that. Again, not a knock, not to disparage or anything like that, but that's just the way I felt about it. And so to hear him say that none of that matters and they're just going to try to go healthy, I think they are going to be in a unique position. Adding Paul George, another, we've said this a couple times, another guy who should fit pretty seamlessly. Basically, as long as you're either a role player that's really good or you're somebody that can play off the ball, you can play pretty much on any team. And especially if you're a great shooter like Paul is, like Cat was earlier. And I think Paul's going to be amazing here. And I really, really have a lot of high hopes for not only Embiid, but also Maxey. I think that Maxey will take another step forward, and he already has. And he's become such a phenomenal player, definitely better than I thought he was going to initially be. And it's just, it feels like after Harden left, he really got to spread his wings. And maybe some of that was being mentored by Harden that first year and, seeing how things were done and being able to, extend himself after that. And nonetheless, I just love his style of play. He's lightning quick. He gets after it on both ends. He tries really, really hard. He gives you everything he's got. He can shoot the ball. He is just awesome to watch. So I think that pairing him with those guys, I think that they are going to be in a great position. And above all else, on the Eastern Conference, there's only probably about 4 teams I think that probably are going to be in that position anyway. So they're definitely one of those teams.
Yeah, I do agree. I think they're I've got them. I have it Celtics, Knicks, 76ers right now is my ranking in the Eastern Conference, but Paul George should be a great fit. And what I think is fascinating is conceptually the NBA under the new collective bargaining agreement is pivoting towards a 2-star and the right role players model of roster building. You see more and more teams doing that. The 76ers trying to go with the 3-star model, and we'll see how this plays out for them. Part of it is Tyrese Maxey is on a smaller deal because he's on a rookie max, and so it's not quite as much as, say, a guy who's got 10 years of experience in the NBA. But I love that you brought him up. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA, Tyrese Maxey. He's absolutely phenomenal. And between him, Paul George, and Joel Embiid, there's a lot of firepower there in Philly. Really exciting time for the 76ers, and we'll see what they can do this season. You know what, though? It doesn't have to be that you make the big move to add talent in order to propel your franchise forward. In fact, sometimes the right thing to do is trade away talent. And that's exactly what the Brooklyn Nets did, trading Mel Bridges to the Knicks. I got to tell you, look, we've talked about the Knicks. I love the Knicks. I love the way the Knicks play basketball. I question if they can keep their identity of being this badass team on the glass that they had from last season. Now that they don't have Julius Randle, now that they've lost Isaiah Hartenstein, who we're going to talk about in a minute as well. And Mel Bridges is a big piece that they've added that is going to be a cornerstone for this team. Same with Jalen Brunson, same with OG Anunoby, now Karl Anthony Towns. But I'll tell you what, if I am a Nets fan, I am so thrilled. I talked about the Bulls a minute ago about how they kind of have a direction now. No, the Nets absolutely, clearly found direction. They first of all were able to make a trade with the Houston Rockets, and they got their own picks back. They got their picks back, all of them. Maybe they got David Putney as well. I don't know if they were able to get him too. Sorry, that was a draft day joke for anybody who's seen that terrible movie. But the
No.
Nets now have a direction. They're rebuilding, and trading away Mikael Bridges, I believe, was the best thing the Nets could have done because they landed a haul of draft picks from the Knicks in this trade.
Yeah, I just got to say, kudos to you because I didn't know where you were going with that, and you got a laugh out of me with that. I had no
Success.
clue where you were going, and I was like, where's he going with this? Like you say the Nets trade. You would think about this trade from the Knicks perspective more than you would the Nets because
Yeah.
obviously they're receiving Bridges. So I didn't think about the Nets, and you're right. Like they absolutely need to pick the decision to finally head start that rebuild that they need to be going on again. It's unfortunate because they were on a rebuild, then stars landed in their lap. They got a third star, and then they were basically forced into a rebuild again when everyone decided they wanted to leave. So, kind of a weird situation to be in if you're in the Nets.
Mhm.
But I do like that. There was a lot of talk last year about whether or not they're even going to trade him, and they held firm until they got the deal that they wanted, and they sold him real high, and they were able to get what they wanted back in return. And kudos to them for that because if you're a fan of them, they definitely set themselves up by getting rid of their best asset with a nice haul like that.
Yeah, they are now set up for the future. And again, they made that move to get their own picks back. Phenomenal work by the Nets. They have their future is so much brighter now. They're going to be bad. They're going to be really bad. And the problem is the Houston Rockets had their draft picks. And what the Nets did was they actually flipped like the Phoenix Suns draft picks that they got in the Kevin Durant trade. They gave those to Houston essentially, and Houston gave the Nets their own picks back. So now when the Nets are bad, that's okay. They're still going to reap the fruit of that instead of the Houston Rockets getting the Nets picks. Now, from the Houston perspective, why give up these picks that are going to be bad? Because the Nets aren't going to trade Mikael Bridges unless they have their own picks. The Nets are going to tell Houston, well, either we get our picks back, or if we don't have our picks, we're not going to tank. We're going to do everything we can to win games. And so if you're in Houston's position, they are essentially betting that by the time those Suns picks come their way, I believe it's 2027, 2029, that Kevin Durant will be long gone. Bradley Beal will be long gone. And Phoenix won't be very good at that point. So essentially, the Houston Rockets decided that their best path forward is to short the Phoenix Suns. And then Brooklyn Nets capitalized on that by saying, hey, we'll give you those Suns picks if you give us back our picks so that we can go ahead and tank and actually get the benefit of losing all of our own games. So that's why this was so critical that they did that. And now the Nets have this incredibly bright future. It's a loaded draft class this coming year. And this Nets team could be off and running as soon as next season. This season, they're going to be bad. They're going to be really bad. But this was the right move for them.
Yep. Cam Thomas season, baby.
Let's go. He's going to, if you play fantasy basketball, Cam Thomas is going to score all the points. Yep. His field goal percentage may not be great, but he's going to score all the points. You know what, though? We look at these teams that are building, and Portland is certainly in that category. They're trying to build out the next generation after trading Damian Lillard summer before this past one. Denny Avdia lands at Portland. We get so focused on where are we going to find the next star. Sometimes it's important to have young, good, high-level quality rotation players, and that's what Denny Avdia is for Portland. They saw the opportunity to go and get him. Malcolm Brogdon wound up in Washington in the deal, but Denny Avdia landing in Portland, this is a foundation piece for them, somebody they think they can build around long-term. Is he their 1A guy of the future? Probably not, but still, he's an important piece that they've added now as they start to rebuild things in the post-Dame era.
Yeah, I like this. I just like them getting at this point with like Portland and a team like Portland and the situation they're in. You want to get as many young guys in there to get looks at and see what you can get out of these guys and what they're going to become, and just see what you have here. And they're working on that. So getting any more young guys that are quality, like I think Denny is a step in the right direction. I also would love to see a little bit more just on that topic of the development of some of their younger guys that they've already had, like Scoot, obviously, is the big ticket one that they really need to convey, or they really need for him to convey into what he's going to be. So I'm really excited about Portland going forward. And I think Denny is a step in the right direction, and hopefully we see more of that.
All right, let's jump over to the Pelicans, who land DeJounte Murray. They still don't have a center. They are, well, a starting center, I should say. All respect to Daniel Tice. But the Pelicans have Yves Missi, and Daniel Tice, and that's it in the middle. But they did land DeJounte Murray, the guard from the Hawks. The Hawks tried to pair DeJounte Murray with Trae Young. It did not work. Murray is a very talented player with the ball in his hands, and so he gets added to this Pelicans side. I would have to imagine it's only a matter of time before CJ McCollum finds himself on his way out of New Orleans. We'll see. That contract might be tough to trade, but I like the value here. Getting DeJounte Murray, getting a young and exciting guard, a guy who can give you 20 and 6 or 7 on any given night. I think this is a solid addition here for a Pelicans team that is now building out a lot of young talent. Still some pieces that probably need to be moved. They need to rebalance this roster, but this is a really nice addition.
Yeah, I think he fits the mold that they have with some of the other young guys really, really well too. Another athletic guard that can get after it on the defensive side of the ball and also can stuff the stat sheet. I really like the players that they're putting around Zion, but there's still a couple of players that have question marks around them. Not so much CJ, but just a little bit for him, but mainly Brandon. I just need to see what they're going to do with the rest of that roster, but I do like guys like Herb Jones over there, and I think DeJounte fits that style that they have, like the core for their team, and he's going to be a nice piece there. And anytime you can get a fringe all-star caliber player onto your team, that should help you propel and take the next step forward. And I think that he's going to fit pretty well, and it's going to be hellacious trying to keep this team away from the rim with him and Zion out there as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, let's jump over to the Orlando Magic, a really good young team on the rise, but they had one big flaw, and that is their perimeter shooting. Enter Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the big offseason free agent signing from the Denver Nuggets. KCP has been a championship-level role player in multiple locations now. You know that he can hit the big shots. He can knock down the threes and give you that floor spacing as well as be a multi-position defensive player. This is, KCP has turned into one of the best role players of the last decade. And this is a big addition for the Orlando Magic. Not so much because he's some all-world player, but more because he fits exactly what this team was missing.
Yeah, he's another guy that's not going to take the ball out of your star's hands. He's going to get after on the defensive side. He's going to be a nice shooting piece for a team that needed shooting, and he's going to fit really well. I also really think that the maturity aspect, he's going to help these guys mature just naturally and be able to show them, hey, this is what it means to win these close games coming from a champion. Putting that veteran voice in the locker room is going to be huge for this team. And I think that KCP is going to be a very, very integral part to that team, potentially taking the next step forward this offseason. As Paolo was saying, I believe he said he was hoping to shoot all the way to the Western Conference or the Eastern Conference Finals this year. That could be a huge step that if their cards land right, maybe that's there for them. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Orlando, really exciting young team to keep an eye on this season. Look, the Knicks, we've talked a lot about their additions. They landed Karl Anthony Towns. They got Bridges. They also lost a player. Isaiah Hartenstein was a big part of their identity as far as, again, that badass team in terms of rebounding, the way they crush teams on the offensive glass. Mitchell Robinson, probably out till January, we're hearing. And so Isaiah Hartenstein was a big person for the Knicks last season, filling in for Mitchell Robinson. This is a big loss for New York, a major addition for the Thunder. This is, in addition to Alex Caruso, Hartenstein is part of what makes the Thunder such an impressive team this coming season. And my pick, again, to be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. The Thunder, they needed somebody who can be a bruiser in the paint, and that's what Isaiah Hartenstein can do. He can play alongside Chet Holmgren. He can manage the 5 spot when Holmgren is out. I think he just gives them another element to the game that the Thunder simply did not have last season. Perfect fit for this team.
Absolutely. You could last year, no matter how good they were, you could beat them up on the inside, and they recognized that. And going out and getting pretty much the best center out there on the market, I believe, this offseason was a huge, huge deal for them. And like I said, he's going to be able to really or like you said, excuse me, he's going to be able to man the paint for them and add that element to a team that really didn't have it last year. And that was, in my opinion, their only real weakness last year. So that's why I think that they're going to be so amazing this year and definitely be shooting for a title, which is interesting to say because this is still a relatively young team, still got some pretty young pieces in your core, and they are not too far removed from doing a rebuild and all of that stuff. And they build it the right way. And they're right there, in my opinion, with arguably the best roster in the entire league. And I think that Hartenstein and Caruso additions are huge pieces for this team. And like I talked about with KCP, you're adding some veterans to that locker room, especially with Caruso adding another champion in there. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of adding champions, Klay Thompson lands with the Dallas Mavericks, leaving the Golden State Warriors, his home for so long. He's won so many titles there. But Klay Thompson jumps over to the Dallas Mavericks, leaves in free agency. Now, a lot of people are down on Klay and say, oh, Klay is washed, right? Klay Thompson put up 18 points per game last season on 39% shooting from three. Like, that's the appeal here for the Mavs, is that he can still fill it up. And when you run a heliocentric offense the way the Mavs do, where everything is going to circle around Luka, and when Luka's out, it's going to circle around Kyrie, it's going to be really nice, a luxury when the defense collapses on Luka and he's kicking out to Klay Thompson, of all people, to shoot wide open threes. This could end up being a big addition. My only caution is that the injuries, if they've robbed him of anything, it's his defensive capabilities. What made Klay a star was his ability to defend 1 through sometimes even 5, at least 1 through 4. He can't do that anymore, but he can still knock down threes. And I think he's going to do a lot of that for the Mavs this year.
Yeah, I just thought of it, but I remember watching those matchups with Cavs Warriors, and they would stick Klay on Kyrie, and he would make life hell for Kyrie. And Kyrie would just go deep into his bag of tricks, and he'd pull off some way to make it. And I just remember that one. I don't know if you remember, but it was a Christmas Day game, and that was the matchup to end the game. And Kyrie, I believe, hits that shot over the top to win the game. That, I think, was 2017, I believe. Anyway, that just encapsulates the entirety of like what made Klay special was also just the defensive side of the ball. And naturally, as these guys get older, they defend up a position. He's not, if he didn't have any injuries, he still probably wouldn't be guarding point guards at this stage. He'd be guarding more forward type players. And that is where he excels now because of the injuries, because of the age. He's better if you put him on your bigger wings out there. And so that's an interesting situation the Mavs are in on the defensive side, because you all of a sudden have your 1, 2, 3, assuming he's starting, and they're not going to be, there's no like primary defender out there. But I think that the offensive side of the ball is going to be so amazing. I think that the fit with Klay is going to be ridiculous. You have a guy over here who's one of the greatest shooters ever and still can fill it up. He'll have no problems or qualms getting 10, 12 threes in a game. You can give him to him whenever you want. Yeah, he'll be streaky. There's a lot of variance with threes, but this guy will hit those shots when it matters. And, he didn't have the greatest playoff last season, but I'm expecting that to be more of an anomaly than what the regular is for him. So I really like the fit here. Adding another sniper alongside Luka just is going to make that team harder to guard. And one of the reasons that the Mavs struggled was because there was a lot of different matchup things, like Tatum switching onto the center really caused a lot of problems for them. But one of the things too is the guys around couldn't hit shots. So that was a really big deal. And anytime your teammates can't hit shots, it's much easier to basically win the game and load up on your main guy, especially in a situation where it's a heliocentric offense. Because if they take all these other guys away, all they got to do is guard you, and these other guys aren't making anything. There's nothing organic happening in the system. So I think Klay is a guy that is going to get hot, and he's going to make those shots that you're going to have to guard. And that's going to be amazing with this team.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's get here. This move has almost become like under the radar at this point because so many other moves have happened. DeMar DeRozan landing with the Sacramento Kings. I'm very high on this addition. There's a lot of people who are like, he's, defensively, he's not that great anymore. Yeah, but he's replacing Harrison Barnes, who was like, maybe he's a little bit better than DeMar DeRozan right now, but it's not like he's replacing a lockdown defensive player on the wing. That's not really what Harrison Barnes was anymore. Meanwhile, while he's not the 3-point shooter that Barnes is, he is a much more potent scoring weapon. And so I'm really high on this. I think that DeMar DeRozan to the Kings, this is a big addition. This is going to allow them to put the ball in somebody else's hands so that the offense doesn't completely fall apart if De'Aaron Fox and or Malik Monk are off the court. I like this addition for Sacramento. I think they're going to be a blast to watch once again, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the Western Conference.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible trying to defend this team at the end of the game, because they've got guys over there that have been, I believe, either have won or been in contention to win the clutch time awards at the end of the season. So they are the clutch play of the year. They are going to be crazy to play against. And I like the dimension of adding DeMar, because you have another ball handler out there, so they can't load up as much on the other two guards that mainly have the ball out there. I also think that Sabonis is going to fit nicely there. I like his ball movement as well. He's almost Jokic light. They don't play exactly the same, but he functions a lot of the same way with the ball out there in his hands. And I think that he's going to fit amazingly with DeMar. My only concern with them is you could get in a position where you're putting too many of these guys on the floor at the same time, and so the defensive side suffers a little bit. But I do think that the offensive ceiling is crazy with this team, as they've already shown to be a crazy offense previous to this. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them play most teams except for the Lakers, because
I'll tell you a final thought on this on DeMar DeRozan. I agree, they're gonna be a problem. But a final thought for this. The Kings were dead last in free throw percentage last season. That's an underrated aspect of this DeMar DeRozan move. He's not only a great free throw shooter, but he's a high volume free throw shooter. That's going to help Sacramento bring that number up. The problem is their highest volume guys were De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, who were both just okay as free throw shooters, and that pulled down the team average. DeMar DeRozan is going to help them by manufacturing some points at the free throw line and hit a high percentage of them. Last one we've got here, though. I mean, this is big. Former MVP, earth-shattering, league-changing. I don't know who's going to beat this team.
Stop laying it on so thick.
now that the Denver Nuggets have Russell Westbrook. You know what? This one's kind of a joke, just throw it in here. Seeing who's still watching at the end of the video. Let us know in the comment section if you're still watching here for the end of it. But Russell Westbrook, we wish him the best, but it is interesting seeing Nuggets fans right now saying all the stuff that fans of so many teams before them have said about how it's finally going to work with Russ and everything's going to click and all that kind of stuff. He's just a difficult player to add to a team and play efficient basketball with. I hope for the best with him, but yeah, he's not the guy that he used to be, and I'm really curious to see how this works out on a Denver team that already struggles shooting from deep. You lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and now you add Russell Westbrook. I wonder how packed the paint is going to look in Denver.
Yeah, with Gordon out there too, it's going to be kind of crazy. The good news is that they do have a release valve with MPJ. I think he makes up for some of that, because I'd like to see his threes tick up. I don't care if he takes 10 a game. I'd like to see. I think he was already at about 7 or 8, so I'd like to see him tick that up a bit. Yeah. He's going to have to. He's going to have to really let it go. In terms of Russ, so if you're a Nuggets fan, this is where you could be a little optimistic. I think he's an upgrade over Reggie Jackson. That was your backup point guard last year. Your main ball handler off the bench. I think he's an upgrade there, aside from shooting. I think Reggie's a bit more efficient. That's just off the top of my head without looking at the numbers. But I think Russ gives you basically everything else at least the same value-wise. I think Russ is a good on-ball defender, actually. I think he's really good at that. I think with Russ, his issue is defensively off the ball. He is going to drift, going to lose track of players. But if he's locked in on somebody, he'll hound them. And he plays with a certain force and energy that doesn't allow him to just, hot dog it when somebody has the ball in front of him. He's going to go after them. And so I think that's where you look at it. And then you still have Jokic, who's the best player in the league. And you're hoping that Jokic masks that and he's able to function well with Russ out there, and maybe they have some, fun stuff going where he's getting Russ going downhill and Russ is able to hopefully finish, because sometimes he struggles with the finishing, but that's where you're optimistic. You got Jokic out there, you got the best player in the league by many people's accounts, mine included, and you're hoping that he can master that for you. So there's your optimism. You lost some shooting, but MPJ is going to shoot more. Hopefully Russ doesn't shoot you out of games, and everything else will be all right.
He can certainly do that. But if you were counting, this is actually number 11 out of our top 10.
Yeah.
I think we just mostly wanted to poke some fun at Russell Westbrook. Good dude, but yeah. I hope,
optimistic, guys. You got it.
I hope in Denver they have stocked up on a lot of orange paint, because I have a feeling they're gonna those rims are gonna need it. They're gonna need it.
Oh my God.
All right, everybody. Make sure you do subscribe to the Basketball Bulletin. Hit that button. Until next time. Oh, and let us know in the comment section what you think about all these moves around the NBA. Who do you think is going to be the team to beat? And who do you think made the best move this offseason? Let us know in the comment section. See ya and stay safe.